Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome to Friday, the best day of the week. Maybe. Is Friday the best day of the week?
No.
No? Which one is? Monday?
The day we are off.
Please. Which one?
The day we are off, it's best day.
The day off is the best day?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You
Yeah.
can understand.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that. Okay, so what we'll do, we have a pretty easy day today. We'll just review a little bit of what we talked about on Tuesday. And then I have a documentary to show you, which I think is really, really neat and really interesting. I'm hoping you agree with me. If you don't, well, it's still a documentary on a Friday, right? Which is better than hard work. So, but let's jump in here, okay? So, don't forget, we're going to do a quiz next Friday. It'll be on this unit, so the beginnings of culture. We'll probably mostly finish it off today. Maybe we'll spend 10 minutes or so on it on Tuesday, just tying up loose ends, but we're almost done and ready to move on to the next thing, okay? So we'll do the quiz on Friday, kind of the same as we did before, same kind of format. It'll feel the same, okay? Okay. So, right. We'd gone through this whole story of human evolution or of bipedal primate evolution all the way from probably the first bipedal hominids about 5 million years ago all the way to us, to these guys, right? I could probably just put myself in there. Yeah.
Like he's
Also,
very secure or something.
what's that?
Yeah. Like he's trying to secure somebody else.
Yeah, I could just, yeah, oh yeah, so I'd be like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. He's not worried. He lives on the, he lives in Africa 300,000 years ago. Yeah, yeah, but it's going to take more than me to scare him. He's used to dealing with lions and all kinds of things. So these are us, right? These are human species that are basically almost genetically identical to us. Okay, we said that unlike some of our other hominid cousins, we're a little more lightly built than they are, right? So things like Neanderthals and Homo heidelbergensis, they're very big, they're very muscularly built, but we're quite a bit slimmer and more lightly built, okay? Our tools are a little more complex and more refined, and I'll show you some of that later. And the beginning of our species is probably, we used to think it was about 200,000 years ago, but some recent genetic evidence and archaeological evidence has actually pushed that beginning back to maybe around 350,000 years. So we're actually a kind of an older species than we originally thought we were. Tuesday, I showed you a video, which I think was kind of interesting, talking about the evolution of human language, right? Because we said that, we'll talk about that in a second. We watched this very short kind of mini documentary on research into chimpanzees, right? And maybe you can help me. I'm not sure how much you can remember from that video, but let's see what we can do. In this video, they were kind of explaining what might have happened when our very distant ancestors left the trees and moved out into open grassland, right? And so we were probably already bipedal animals by that time, but still we moved out into the open grassland. And what kind of new skills might we have needed? Did you manage to catch that? Yeah, we might have needed to cooperate a little bit better, right? Or to cooperate more. Did you catch anything else? That was good.
The new adaptations.
Well, we would certainly have to adapt to a different environment, for sure, right?
New strategy.
Say again?
New strategy.
Yeah, we needed to cooperate. We needed to develop new strategies, right? And I think they also mentioned that we might have needed to develop new kind of roles, right? So certain members of our group would have had to learn they would have had different jobs, right? And so to do all this, to sort of develop new strategies, to cooperate and to coordinate, to assign people different roles, all of that required some more complicated communication, right? And so, yeah, so based on that, they show us some research in Japan. And what did we see the chimpanzees doing? What were they demonstrating for us?
They have a sharper memory and a quick reaction than humans.
Yeah, so they've got an incredible short-term memory, do they not? Almost unbelievable. They're so fast, right? Did you, when they were showing the tests, the one with the 9 numbers, did any of you get even close to even being able to register all the numbers before they disappeared?
No.
No, me neither. I think I saw like our host, I think I saw 2 or 3 numbers and then too slow, right? But yeah, the chimpanzees not only see it, but they remember it almost perfectly, right? Which is super impressive. And so what does that have to do with this cognitive trade-off hypothesis? What's this hypothesis? What's this idea?
Trade between memory and language.
Yeah, there's been kind of a trade-off between memory and language, right? So as our brain has kind of developed and certain parts of it have grown in order to process and create language, it's kind of borrowed capacity from other things, right? It's almost, yeah. Oh no. Are you just saying hi? Oh, okay. I was like, hey, how's it going? Yeah, so you can almost think of this. I know earlier in the course I talked about humans as kind of computers, right? And culture was our operating system. And here, if you want to try to continue the metaphor, you can almost think about it like actual computer memory, right? Some programs use a lot of memory, they use a lot of processing power. And so when you try to run other programs at the same time, things start to kind of slow down and freeze up, right? Because the computer can't do everything at once. And here we have kind of a similar thing where as one part of our brain is kind of becoming larger and being more dedicated to processing language, it's kind of stealing capacity from other parts, right? And it turns out that it's stolen some capacity from our short-term memory, right? And so I guess that was the thing that natural selection decided was okay for us to lose, right? We could lose a little bit of our short-term memory. And so we did, right? And instead, we have incredible language ability, but we're not nearly as quick as those chimps with our short-term memory, right? And indeed, this is a tangent, but in part, this probably led to us eventually starting to write things down, right? Because writing things down is a way to extend your short-term memory, right? If you're doing a math problem, you write it out because you can't keep all of those numbers in your head at the same time, right? You lose them. And so when we write them down, we can kind of augment our short-term memory and we can do things that are more complicated, right? But that's a bit of an aside. I missed this. Yeah. Yeah, of course. I missed the answer to this question on number 5, but did anyone catch what makes us us?
Like, if I say
Language.
It was language?
the language and the one more thing, the monkeys have a certain age to learn new skills. At the one time it stopped, but we humans always try to learn whether it's age. We can learn everything in certain area, like not an age difference.
Right.
So that's why it makes us us, and the one's language
Yeah.
we can speak.
Right. So okay, there was some stuff about age, there was some stuff about language, but I think you're correct. I think it was sharing, right? I think it was what makes us us is the ability to share with each other, right? I think that's think that's what it was. I did miss that. Were you surprised by the results of that memory test? You weren't surprised? You expected that chimp to blow us out of the
I
water?
didn't expect that, but I was like, I can't do that to remember 9 words.
Oh, okay. So, well,
So that
you can't do it, or you can do it.
I can't do
You can't do it? No, me neither. Well, I guess I wasn't. Yeah, that's not surprising.
We have to be very super fast
Yeah.
to do that one.
Yeah.
Very difficult.
Yeah, they're incredible, right? So the last part I wanted to point out was this, right? Is that the idea that, in evolution, and I think Neil Shubin said this in Your Inner Fish. He said, in evolution you kind of use it or lose it, right? And so adaptations that are useful and helpful and allow an organism to thrive and survive, those things are going to be passed down. But if there's things that we're kind of not using, evolution is efficient, right? And it kind of prunes away stuff that we don't need, right? Similar thing from Your Inner Fish has happened with our sense of smell, right? We have a lot of our brain dedicated to processing visual information. We're very visual animals, and we don't really use our nose as much as, say, a dog does, right? So those genes over time get switched off, right? And now we have a very poor sense of smell as compared to dogs and cats and things like that. But our ability to process visual information is much, much greater, right? Even just in the colors that we see. Right? And so evolution kind of does that, right? If something, it provides a new solution, a new kind of adaptation, and if it's successful, it'll get passed on. And if it's not, it'll kind of get removed, right? And so our evolution, even though we're incredible creatures, right? Even though we're incredible creatures, our abilities have come at a cost, right? We've acquired some abilities like language, but we've lost other abilities like our short-term memory, right? Our ability to take in visual information is excellent, but our ability to smell things, awful, right? And some of us are worse than others. I have a really bad sense of smell. I can't smell anything at all. But yeah, it's kind of a use it or lose it. We've gained certain abilities, but we've also lost others. And we'll see that in the documentary I'm going to show you very shortly, okay? Now, oh yeah, new stuff, okay? Too far? Yes. Now, I said that the Homo sapiens that lived about, well, all the way from about 350,000 years ago to 70,000 years ago, they're almost exactly like us, okay? In terms of their genetics, in terms of their bodies. They were probably much more fit and muscular and rugged than most of us, but they were us, right? With one little difference, okay? And something happens at about 70,000 years ago in human history that we never see before, but then all of a sudden we start to see it around this time. And what it is the appearance of art and much more complicated forms of tools, okay? So, for instance, we see things like this. Has anyone ever seen this before? Where's my art history people? Yeah? What is it? It's a statue. Yeah. What do we know about it from art history? It's a what?
Freestanding sculpture.
It's a freestanding sculpture. Nice. Woo. Okay. And it's a freestanding sculpture. Seems to be some sort of a lion person. A what? It's a
Beer.
It's a beer? What do you mean? Oh, it's like a deer? That's not a deer. Oh, it's a bear?
Yeah.
That's not a bear. Is that a bear? Who thinks it's a bear?
It looks like.
Who thinks it's a lion?
No.
It's a really tall bear.
It's a really tall bear.
Skinny one too.
Tall, skinny bear.
And it looks like smile. It's a
He looks like he's smiling.
Yeah.
A little bit. Well, regardless of what kind of animal is happening up here, regardless of what kind of animal is happening up here, we've kind of got him on kind of a human body, right? And the idea here, I think he's called a lion man. We don't really know if he's a lion or not, but still he is kind of an imaginary creature, right? This sort of creature doesn't exist in real life. So we're seeing kind of two things here. Number one, the creation of an imaginary being, right? The second thing we're seeing is an object that is created for no practical purpose, right? This isn't a tool of any type, right? You can't use it to hunt or to fish. It's just a thing, right? And is it a god to be worshipped? Is it a children's toy? We don't know. We don't know. Is it art? Well, art is in the eye of the beholder. It comes up in art history, so who is it? Jessica? Your teacher? Crystal?
I forgot her name already.
Oh, you forgot her name already? Well, she would probably say that it's art. But regardless of what it is, whether you call it art or not, whether you call it a lion or not, it's an abstract, imaginary creature that has been created for no practical purpose, right? And that's a big deal, right? This is the beginning of art, whether you think it's art or just art. This is the beginning of art. We see stuff like this. This comes a little bit later, maybe about 40 or 50,000 years ago, but we see cave paintings that look like this. And so if you go into these caves, often found in Spain or in France, you'll see that the insides are covered with all kinds of painted images, right? So most of them are animals. There's sort of cows and horses. There's people hunting them. There's really interesting, really cool things where people have kind of drank a little bit of paint, and then they put their hand on the wall, and then they go, and they spit all over their own hand. But then when you take it away, you can see the impression of their hands still on the wall. 50,000 years later, you can see these people put their mark on the wall, right? Put their mark on the world.
Do they have paint?
It's a new way of painting.
It's a new way of paint. Well, it's spray painting.
Not with the brush, but with the hands.
Yeah, it's spray painting 50,000 years ago.
How would they develop paint?
What's that?
How would they develop paint?
Paint is usually made from minerals or oxides. So copper, for instance, will rust blue or green. Iron will rust red, right? Shells you can grind up and get white or limestone. Often they mix it with animal fat so that it is like a paste and maybe a bit of water, and then you can spread it on the walls.
So they have that much brain capacity to
Yeah.
do their thing.
Well, yeah, they're pretty intelligent creatures.
Blood.
What's that?
Do they use blood?
Maybe animal blood. It's possible. Animal blood has
Blood.
iron in it. It's probably not blood. I'm sorry. I know you'd like me to tell you that, but it's probably not. Look at the kind of tools we see people making. So these, I'll show you. Here we go. These are blade tools. And so what you do with something like this is you get a piece of bone or even wood, and you carve it. You carve it in the shape of a knife. Okay? So you carve a piece of wood, let's say, in the shape of a knife. And then here, you make a little groove right where the blade of the knife would be. You make a little groove, and then you take these little things and you glue them in to the knife. And you can use animal hide to help you make a glue that sticks. You glue them all in, and then you've got this really sharp, really usable knife. And when the knife gets dull, you just pull those out and put in new little stone blades. These are really hard to make. Okay? These are really hard to make. You have to prepare a stone that's basically like a cylinder. And some of them are quite small because look at the scale here. Some of these blades are just a centimeter long. And so you need to prepare a piece of stone that's a cylinder so that you can press off flakes off the side. And so they just kind of, really tough to do, really tough. But Homo sapiens here have figured out these kind of composite tools, tools that are made of multiple materials like bone and stone or wood and stone. Really tough to make. I know they don't look like much, but if you can make these, you are very good at your stone tools. We see fish hooks like this with woven line and sinkers. We see, here's some composite tools here. These are all for shaping wood, probably, but you don't break this stone. This stone is kind of hard like granite, and so you have to grind it into shape. And then you can attach it to a handle, like you see at the top, and then you can use it to shape wood, right? Maybe you can carve a canoe or something. Here, this is, in modern world, you would probably call this a spoke shave. And so you've got some stone tools, or some stone pieces in there which are really sharp. This was probably the jawbone of a deer or something. Grab onto it, and then you pull it along a piece of wood to shave it down. Maybe if you're making a spear or something like that. So really complicated tools where you have to build multiple parts and then you have to get them all to fit together and work together. Really complicated stuff. Here's some more ground stone tools, axe heads and stuff like that. So what's going on? Well, as near as we can tell, this is a point where us, Homo sapiens, developed some random DNA mutation that changed the wiring of our brain. You heard that Neil Shubin told us that, yeah, we have a lot of neurons in our brain, 16 billion or whatever it was, but they're unusually interconnected, right? They're connected to each other in many, many places. And that's kind of a strange thing for most animals. They're not as interconnected as we are. So the idea here is that we picked up these genetic mutations that has increased the interconnections in our brain, and that brings us to the level of intelligence that we now have. So at about 70,000 years ago or so, the people that we're looking at, the people that made stuff like this and painted stuff like this in their own blood, the people who created these things are just like you and me. Okay? These people are living 60, 70,000 years ago. They're living a very simple existence because, these are their tools, right? These are the things that they have. But they're exactly like you and me. They have the same intelligence. They feel the same things. They are us, right? They are us at this point. But keep in mind, this little DNA mutation is going to put us above some of our other hominid cousins, right? So things like Neanderthals, definitely Homo erectus, Homo heidelbergensis, we're going to get a big jump up, right? And suddenly, we're much more intelligent than they are. They might be bigger, they might be stronger, they might even be tougher, right? But they're not smarter, right? We are now the smarter species. And so, why is this useful? Why is this brain that is so interconnected, why did it get passed on? Why was it beneficial? Well, some anthropologists think that it's a brain that's better at holding and maintaining social relationships and social information, okay? So think about this, okay? If you live in a group of 50 people, okay? Maybe you're hunter-gatherers, maybe some of those people are your family, some of them are not related to you. But if you live in a group of 50 people, to properly understand the sort of social dynamics of that group, you have to keep track of 1,225 different relationships, right? Because in that group, there's yours and my relationship, there's yours and my relationship, and you and me, and you two, and you two, and you two, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of relationships in one group. And if you remember, earlier I said that one of the things that makes humans so unique is our ability to cooperate flexibly and in large numbers. And one of the reasons that we can do that is because we can keep track of social information so well. And some anthropologists would go so far as to say that this is a brain that is designed to keep track of that social information, right? Maybe as a bit of proof, although maybe this isn't proof to you, but think about how much human beings love to talk about and watch and think about the social relationships and social interactions of others, right? How often do we get together with our friends and we talk about other people, right? Who's hanging out with who said what to who's angry at who's dating, who's not dating, who has a crush on who, right? If we look at some of our favorite television shows and movies, they're all about relationships, right? They're all about the interaction of characters. If we don't care about the interaction of the characters, the story has no point, right? We don't even want to watch it. If the characters are bad and they don't make sense to us, we're like, what is this, right? It's all about monitoring and understanding social interaction. And some anthropologists would say this is a brain that is, in part, designed to do that really well. So not only do we have the language and the ability to communicate with each other, but now we can keep track of large numbers of social relationships, right? We can manage that. And that makes us even better at cooperating with each other. And so, yeah, from about 70,000 years ago, these people are us. And they start to leave Africa just like some of our earlier hominid cousins, just like Homo heidelbergensis, just like Homo erectus. And, you know, as you probably know, we eventually spread all across the planet, right? First into kind of the Middle East area and into Europe, then into the Indian subcontinent, up into Asia, into Southeast Asia, into all of those islands, into Australia, and finally about 15,000 years ago, here into North and South America, right? Now, the question that might occur to you at this point is, okay, well, we left Africa and we sort of spread throughout the world. And of course, we know there are no other hominid species alive today. So what happened? Right? Where did they all go? Right? Because, yeah, after that migration starts, these other species begin to disappear. Homo erectus, Homo heidelbergensis, Homo neanderthalensis, all kind of vanish by about 30,000 years ago. And so what happens? And so there's probably, well, there's two ways to look at this. Okay. The first one is it's an interbreeding situation. Okay. So our species left Africa. They encountered other types of hominid. They interbred with them, which kind of assumes that they're the same species really, but they interbred with them. And instead of two groups, eventually over time we had one, and here we are. Right? And so these early hominids kind of got absorbed into our gene pool, if you will. The second one is replacement. So we came along, Homo sapiens, with our superior brains and superior tools, and we either outcompeted our other hominid cousins, or we simply killed them. We got into conflicts and we killed them because we're the smarter species. Right? So I ask you, which do you think it is? What do you think happened? Did we interbreed with our hominid cousins and multiple groups eventually just became one? Or did we kill them? Or were we just better at getting food and they died out? We killed them? Ooh, that's dark.
Yeah.
Why do you...
Are a violent species.
What?
We are violent species.
We're a violent species?
Yeah.
Well, I can't argue with you.
When it comes to survival.
Okay, when it comes to survival, we're a violent species. There's an argument to be made there, for sure. There's been more than enough wars over the past
Yeah.
however long. Other thoughts? What do you think? Maybe what?
Interbreed.
You think interbreeding? Why do you think that?
That's why there is a new evolution. That's why the new kind of Homo erectus or something else.
So their next step was to merge in with us.
Maybe.
Maybe. Okay.
Because we don't know that much for history of that. We can just guess.
Well, and you're correct about that. So you said that we don't really know the whole story, and we don't. The evidence for this is kind of not clear. Okay. So if you look at our genetics, and if you look at Neanderthal genetics, you'll see that there is an overlap between our two species. So we have some of the genes that we have are actually the exact same as the ones that Neanderthals have. Okay, so for some people who are from Europe, okay, back row, my turn. Some people who are from Europe and the Middle East, they actually have 1 to 6 or 1 to 4% of their DNA seems to have originated in Neanderthals, right? And we haven't really talked about Denisovans yet, but and we won't actually. But Australian Aborigines have 6% of their DNA in common with this other human species as well. And I actually did this. I did one of those genetic things like 23andMe a number of years ago. Yeah.
You know they take your DNA
I know they take it.
and then they put it in the database.
I know they did that.
Yeah.
But I still own it. I think it's still mine.
It is, but it's just like they'll use it for stuff. They say they won't use it, but they actually do.
Well, we'll see. Hopefully that won't bite me in the butt. But anyway, so my genetics say that I actually have 283 genes that are from Neanderthals, right? So some of my DNA I have in common with those big brutish things, right? And so that's kind of weird, and it kind of might lead some credence to the interbreeding thing, right? We share genes because our ancestors bred, right? Homo sapiens, Neanderthals, and then we mixed our two species together. So it might have to do with that, but it also might have to do with the fact that we have a common ancestor, right? So Neanderthals and humans and Homo sapiens, Homo heidelbergensis is our common ancestor, right? So just like you, if you have a sibling, you and your sibling both have the same parents, and therefore you share genetics with your brother or sister, right? You're not identical, but you have some of the same genes, and you do because you have the same parents. And so it's the same thing for Neanderthals and Homo sapiens. We have the same genes because we kind of have the same parent species, right? So it could be interbreeding, but it also could be, well, we come from a common ancestor, right? We divided from the same species. So it's not clear, right? A recent study here that was published in Nature was a genetic study by this guy Johannes Krauss. But what he says, and this is important to think about, is really we should remember that when a new species appears, it doesn't just show up, right? It's kind of a long, slow process. And so if you have a group of Homo heidelbergensis, and some are going to become Homo sapiens and some are going to become Neanderthals, that split is going to take a long time, right? And so they're all the same, right? They're all the same. They're almost all the same. Still pretty identical. Okay, a little different now. A little more different, but still similar. And it's going to take tens of thousands of years, if not longer, for these two to become so different that they become different species. So at the time when they might have been interbreeding, they might not have even been different species yet, right? They might have just been on their way to that ultimate destination. So again, this is the long time frame. This is why it makes it hard to think about, because these species just don't appear magically one day. They take a long time to split and to evolve, right? The other thing to say about the violence or the interreplacement thing, we don't have any evidence of that. So we don't have any Neanderthal skulls with a Homo sapien spear stuck in the side of it. We don't have any evidence of that, so we don't know that they didn't fight and kill each other, but there's no evidence that they did. So we can't really say for sure. So we don't know is the answer. And it could have been all of those things, right? It could have been a little bit of interbreeding. It could have been a little bit of common ancestor. It could have been a little bit of replacement. Maybe some groups even came into conflict and killed each other because we're a violent species, right? It could have been all of those things at the same time, or different things in different places, right? So we don't know, right? The picture is still not clear. But one way or the other, we're still the only ones left after about 25 to 30,000 years ago. And it's been our world ever since, right? Good. Okay. So let's take a little break. I know it's just a bit early, but we're going to start the documentary. When we come back, we'll watch this documentary, and hopefully it will help us to put all the rest of the pieces together. Okay, so come back in 10, and we'll do that. So, brings us to this documentary, okay? So, what do I need to tell you? I have some questions for you here to help us keep track of the important information in this video. So I'm going to give this to you. Oh, did I screw it up already? Oh, I did, sorry. I did. I'll get it. Was that your chemistry? Okay. Here it is. Wait. So, okay.
Oh my god, is that a CD?
Yes.
Oh my god, vintage.
I know, right?
So cute.
I know. So,
Such a millennial.
okay, people, I wish. So, this will help us keep track. So the documentary here is going to help us to kind of, it'll show us some innovations and sort of adaptations about Homo sapiens that are very unique, mostly to us. It'll help us to sort of tie the entire picture and the entire story together of how we evolved and what we are. Niobe Thompson is also from the University of Alberta, which I'm from the University of Alberta, so I thought that was kind of cool. Yes, I am. But I never met him. I heard his name when I was there, but I never met him, so it's too bad. So now for online people, and it's just Lovepreet right now, I'm still trying to get online access to this. So Lovepreet, you won't be able to watch with us, but I will figure out a way for you to watch this. So don't panic for the moment. I'll figure it out, okay? Okay. Let's watch.